Congratulations to ANC on its 20th anniversary. It's certainly a milestone when you get to be 20 years old in a very tough media environment. I think ANC has to be congratulated for such because clearly ANC is very topical, has a lot of relevant news, and I think more importantly, has the ability to grab those who are in the know. Congratulations to ANC.
ANC, the news channel for leaders.
Let's now talk about what President Duterte can and cannot do amidst his anti-US rhetoric. All right, number one, can the president alone enter into a security alliance with China and scrap all the US agreements that have been done before him? Let's simplify it with that. Can he do that alone without the support of the lower house and the Senate?
The security alliance, that means a treaty, that will need ratification by the Senate, not the whole Congress, but by the Senate. So he cannot do that alone.
Okay.
I understand that terminating the Mutual Defense Treaty, he can do that alone, but he must give a one-year notice. I was talking with some experts, although some people have a contrary opinion, but the opinion that I'm getting is that he can do it based on one-year notice. And tied to the MDT, you know, the BFA and the EDCA are not stand-alone arrangement. It's all tied to the MDT. You terminate the MDT, automatically BFA and the EDCA will be terminated. You can terminate EDCA without altering the MDT.
So if, let's say, we go with that belief that President Duterte can terminate the MDT alone, he has to give one-year notice, to the US or to the alliance?
To the US.
To the US.
Because it's only between the US and but of course the other countries have a stake here. As I said, you know, it's like parang puzzle yan eh. You remove one and it alters the interconnection of the puzzle. It will affect China, it will affect Japan in particular, Australia, New Zealand. These are interconnected alliances, and the mother alliance would be with the United States. But the other countries, like for example, Great Britain, is the strongest ally of the United States. They are also present in the Pacific. In fact, Great Britain has a military arrangement pact, not formal, with Australia, with Singapore, with Malaysia, and with New Zealand. So that is also going to be affected. Vietnam is also depending on the Philippines as one of those who are resisting the 9-dash line of China. They have the same problem. But if we, for example, all of a sudden swing away, then they'd be alone there, resisting the 9-dash line threat of China.
Now, isn't this exactly, going on another perspective, isn't this what the US needs? I mean, you have some observers saying, if President Duterte didn't go this way, this tough-talking manner, the US would keep ignoring us.
Well,
I mean, that's one point of view. Do you think it's been working?
Ignoring may be an exaggeration, because they keep on saying, why are they not treating us like Israel? I've already explained that.
Yeah.
We are not in a war zone. We are not facing an existential threat, and we should be happy that we are in that situation. I would rather be what we are now instead of being in Israel surrounded by enemies. I would rather be where we are instead of Pakistan, which is facing some geopolitical problems in the South Asia area. So some of these may be valid, some are not that valid, these grievances against the alliance. Of course, it's good that now we are asserting ourselves, and probably the US will start listening. But I'd like to interject something. You know, the art of moving on. It's good that the president went to Vietnam. It's good that the president is now in Japan, because these are all examples of the art of moving on. Vietnam had a bloody war with the United States, 11 years. Almost 1 million Vietnamese died, but they have moved on. In fact, they're now drifting towards the umbrella of the United States because of national security. To them, national security is more important, not history, but current national security.
Today, yeah.
In the case of Japan, for example, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor.
And I think you should also say, because China's intrusions,
Yeah.
when it comes to the Vietnamese waters,
That's right.
they put an oil rig in an area claimed by Vietnam.
Yeah,
Remember?
we should learn from how they handled.
Yes.
They stood up.
Yeah.
They clashed, not lethally, but using water cannons, ramming, fishing vessels, Coast Guard ships, and after about a little over 1 month, China withdrew because they were exposed to very negative international attention.
Good, good. So you're saying, number one, if it's about moving on, you have Vietnam that got into a bloody war with the U.S. Millions of Vietnamese died, and yet they're moving towards the U.S. umbrella now. Japan.
In the case of Japan, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Now the U.S. has forgotten that. The U.S. bombed them, 2 nuclear bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They have moved on. They're not talking about that. So what's happening? They're hosting 50,000 soldiers there. Why?
Is anyone telling the president this?
Yeah, they're nationalistic, but to them, current national security threat is more important. Forget the past.
Yes.
And concentrate on the present. Past is past. Present security threat is more important. In the case of the Philippines, the China's threat is still there. Even if we're friendly to them today, we don't know. 6 years from now, when there's a new administration, we don't know whether China will continue to be friendly, because they act generationally. They may be friendly for 3 years, but all of a sudden, after 3 years, they grab another feature inside our exclusive economic zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
when President Duterte keeps bringing up 1906, I mean the U.S. Moro issue, even 2002, the Mering case, where in the U.S., I mean, no less than Ambassador Goldberg says they did not spirit him out. When he keeps bringing these up, and as back as issues 120 years ago.
Well, as I said, when you change your foreign policy, it must be for a geopolitical reason.
Of today.
Of today.
Of today.
Big geopolitical reason. In the case of the Philippines, for example, we have moved on. The Japanese occupied us in a very vicious way.
Good
but
point.
A lot of people are saying if somebody slept during the Second World War and woke up in the 70s and the 60s, they would have thought the Japanese won after seeing all the Japanese brands all over the country. I think the president has also moved on as far as Japan is concerned. He's not mentioning the Japanese occupation.
Or the atrocities or rape.
Precisely, the atrocities. So why can't he apply the same principle of moving on with other things that are not as serious as the Japanese occupation?
So what do you think is it? No, so now my question, you said, why can't he apply? I want to ask you, why?
I really don't know.
Do you think it's personal?
It could be personal. We are affected by the same thing in different ways. So maybe in this case, it affects him because it's in Davao, it's in Mindanao. But in my case, for example, my uncle was beheaded by the Japanese because of guerrilla activities, but my grandmother and my mother moved on. They forgot about it, and it did not let them allow it to be an obstacle to dealing with the Japanese.
All right. President Duterte has assured Japan there will be no military alliance with China. But what could happen to the Philippines if this antipathy towards the U.S. continues? In other words, he doesn't cancel the Mutual Defense Treaty, but this just keeps going on and on and on.
It injects the element of uncertainty to the alliance. Well, as I said, Japan is part of the family of alliances, and they look at the Philippines as a very vital cog in that network of alliances linked to the United States, and of course very important to them. So if there would be unexpected changes, the last thing you'd want in foreign policy is unpredictability, instability. Something might trigger, which is not really big geopolitically, and it could change the perspective, it could change policy. I think people don't like that. It must be stable.
Will it affect business in the Philippines, incoming investments, or will it even pressure the U.S. to spend more money in the Philippines?
Well, in the case of the bashing of the United States, I understand from the BPO people that it's starting to affect their future investors. I doubt whether the existing BPOs, for example, would leave and pack up. No, I think they'll stay. But we are projecting a 17% growth rate. That might slow down. You know, we are expecting that by 2020, it will go up from $25 billion to $50 billion. That's a lot of money in just 4 years' time. But that might be affected because the future investors might say, I'll just go to India. It's more stable there. The atmosphere there is friendlier. Because these are people, these are human beings. When their country is attacked, when the president is attacked, it also affects them, just like us. If somebody says something negative about the Philippines or about our leader, it hurts us. Same with them. These are human beings also.
Now, what could President Duterte be seeing? There's a report I read that supposedly is a paper in Washington. It was released by ABS-CBN, at least the story, that in a way Washington is worried because the Philippines strategically is very important to the U.S. in terms of securing this part of the region.
Not only the U.S., but very important for Japan, for Australia, for New Zealand, for Singapore, for India.
Why are we important?
Well, there's the so-called first island chain.
Yun.
We are outside. That first island chain is a line from Brunei. It cuts through the Palawan area, then goes to the Bashi Channel, then all the way to Japan and the Aleutians. That is the line that separates the Western Pacific from the South China Sea. China would like to break out of that line. They use that line for defense and also to project their power eventually. We are blocking that line.
How?
Because it's right, without the Philippines, they can easily go out into the Western Pacific without passing to the Bashi Channel. However, if we, for some reason, fall into the orbit of China, then China will be able to use our sea lanes to go out to the Western Pacific without being exposed to danger. Bashi Channel is so close to Taiwan. Taiwan is not friendly to them. It's close to the Senkaku, so they're within the range of the defensive missiles of and even the planes of Japan. But if they pass through San Bernardino Strait, for example, or Surigao Strait, then they're far from there. Or even, God forbid, they'll be allowed in the future to have a naval base in the Infanta area, Quezon. Then from there, they can easily go out into the Western Pacific without being obstructed. That is, of course, the concern of people, depending on how we behave as an ally or as a potential friend of or ally of China. The other one is Scarborough Shoal. There is this strategic triangle. So many times in Tokyo, in a strategic study group, we studied that. The strategic triangle is the triangle consisting of one Paracels in the north. That's already occupied by China. They have a runway there. Then the cluster of reclaimed islands, Fiery Cross, Subi, and Mississippi, with 3,000-meter runways that's about to be militarized. And the third one, to complete the triangle, is Scarborough Shoal. That is a red line according to the United States. If that is militarized, it is going to maybe result in something we don't know. But they said it's a red line. The Philippines also said that it should not be militarized. However, if in the future we become all of a sudden friendly and an ally of China, we might allow the Scarborough Shoal to be militarized. God forbid. I doubt very much whether it would happen, but it might happen. And I think even China might even attempt to militarize that, even if we don't allow it, because they have the force. Yeah, they have the force to do it. They did it in Mississippi. They can do it in Scarborough Shoal.
And what happens if they militarize that and take over? You've mentioned it's a triangle, all of Scarborough Shoal.
They will have full control of the South China Sea. They might declare an air defense identification zone and obstruct the passage not only of ships but also of planes. Scarborough Shoal has a big lagoon, 150 square kilometers, about the size of Quezon City. That's how big it is, and they can build around the shoal you know, there are rocks there. They can reclaim there also and construct runways and all kinds of facilities there. If for example, either they can do it forcibly without our consent, or